right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with our next Shabbos guest. We're very excited to welcome Dr. Josh Lipson, who is a clinical psychologist researcher currently at Emory University. He does that by day, but his interests are the intersection between psychedelic spirituality and mental health. He is also the founder and co-president of the Jewish Genetic Discovery Foundation. So, Dr. Josh, welcome.
Good to be here, Rabbi. Really excited for a fun Shabbos.
Well, we're very much looking forward. Dr. Josh is going to be speaking at Kiddush. He's going to be giving a women's shir. He's going to be speaking in the afternoon. So there is a lot to look forward to. But let's start with the background. So, how does one enter into a career of the intersection between psychedelics, mental health, and spirituality? That's fascinating.
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in consciousness, and the way we experience reality as humans. There's existence, creation itself, and then there's the way we experience it that we construct in our minds that helps us to survive. And I became really interested in psychedelics and other powerful technologies for altering consciousness, many of which exist in our tradition already and don't require drugs, and their power to help people um, augment and maybe even in some cases replace the 20th century secular mental health treatments that have been falling short. So there are so many interesting ways to look at this subject. You can look on the brain level, you can try to understand things psychologically, and then of course there's the religious spiritual dimension. And I think in any case, the point I always try to make when I'm studying this intersection of psychedelic spirituality and mental health is that psychedelics have serious potential, but are not to be trifled with, um, have serious upside and downside. And that also, none of these things are one size fits all. And what's most interesting to me is that we're talking about agents that help some people under some conditions, but don't really follow universal rules.
Understood. Understood. So maybe we'll take a step back. Can you just give people an idea of your educational background and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate in Near Eastern languages and civilizations at Harvard. So I studied Hebrew, Arabic, ancient and modern Middle Eastern history. That's always been a real passion of mine and kind of related to what we'll be talking about this Shabbos. Um, and then basically, I became interested in the question of the power of individual consciousness, and that had always been a back burner interest of mine. But after a few years of traveling and working in the tech world, I ended up getting a master's in psychology and ultimately a PhD in clinical psychology at Columbia that I did last year, landing me now at Emory in a primarily research role.
Very interesting. And how does genetics fit into all of this? The founding of the Jewish Genetics Discovery Foundation.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's an interesting question. I'm still trying to figure out how it all fits together. But I've always been interested in history and Jewish identity since I was a very young kid. I'm interested, both I think in my study of psychedelics and consciousness and, psychology generally, but also in my study of genetics and history in the deep roots of things. What is the underlying pattern that leads to so many, apparently different manifest outcomes? And when I was a kid, I'm really talking about like middle school aged, this research into the implications for genetics on Jewish history was just beginning to take form in sort of an early primitive way. And I started reading about that stuff on the internet, and it sort of I was also really, really interested when I was in day school, you have all the genealogies, all the tables and charts in the Chumash, you know, uh, especially, well, no, I mean, throughout all five books, but specifically in Bereshit, you know, I sort of got, I don't know if you want to say distracted, but super interested in this question of deep genealogical roots and how this is something that, stretches all the way back and all the way forward in time that we can identify with. And, shortly after that, I started learning that there was a science of population genetics that had real implications for Jewish history. And it's been my obsession for many years. And then I found friends and collaborators online who shared this obsession, got connected to some academic studies, because actually a lot of the researchers in this field are very humble and accessible and will brainstorm with anybody who has good ideas. And then fast forward to last year, uh, one member in our informal group online said, guys, we need to create an organizational structure around this. So we did, and now there's a foundation, and we've been doing great work for the past year.
Fantastic. So I know what one of the talks you're going to give over Shabbos is about Kohanim
Oh,
and
yes.
the Kohen gene, I believe it's known as. Can you give us a few teasers just to get people excited?
Yeah, so I'm happy to. This may be like the most famous finding in Jewish genetics, right? There's the Cohen gene, that in its most simple form was first discovered and publicized in 1997. It was discovered by Karl Skoretsky, who's a nephrologist by training, but sort of a polymathic scholar, Canadian in origin, based in Israel today. Um, and it's been almost 30 years since that discovery. And what I'm pleased to be able to say is that what was once, a nice theory is now confirmed with a much higher degree of confidence that a majority of men around the world, Jewish men around the world who identify as Kohanim, whether you're Ashkenazi, Yemenite, Persian, Moroccan, a majority, not all, descend from the same male ancestor almost 3,000 years ago. Is that,
Fascinating.
yeah, is that Aaron Cohen? We have to be careful as scientists. That also falls a few hundred years short of being able to make that direct association. We don't know. What I'm willing to confidently bet is that we're talking about descent from a Kohen, maybe a Kohen Gadol, I don't know, maybe his brother, who was living in ancient Israel around that time. And that is a case where tradition and biological inheritance line up strikingly well.
Very interesting. Okay, we look forward to hearing more about that. And there's a lot of history. It implicates a lot of your interests.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, okay, now, well, I guess one of the key questions that a lot of the listeners will want to know is, do you plan on passing out psychedelics at Kiddush?
Well, that wasn't if that had been part of the billing, if that was the theme of the talk, we might have to reconsider. But in New York, psychedelics are not legal at this date. Um,
Okay, so we'll hold off. We try to
but
only engage in legal activity. That's
of
fair enough.
course, of course.
And so what is the goal or the mission of the Jewish Genetic Foundation? What are you guys trying to accomplish? Where like what causes do you support? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so what we are trying to do is reconstruct the gaps in our understanding of Jewish history as completely as we can using the DNA of living people. And there's already been, and I'll talk about this in my main talk at Kiddush. There's already been an incredible amount of progress in the field generally, and in our work specifically more recently. But there are parts of our genealogical history that we know, maybe going back a few hundred years, and then those stories go dark. There are some things we know about the foundation of different Jewish communities in the diaspora. But at a certain point, goes dark. We know about, the Jews during Roman times, the early diaspora, you know, the Jewish revolts in Judea. We know about ancient Israel as described in the time of the Tanakh. But throughout this whole sweep of over 3,000 years, there are many gaps. There's still many gaps. Um, how is it that we started off there, but ended up in these various places in the diaspora? There are a lot of missing links. Or how are different communities related to each other? A lot of missing links. And this is the kind of thing that our genetic toolkit is perfect for. So I guess you could say that, that's technically our goal. As scholars, we care about the truth for its own sake. But I also think that there is a lot to be gained in terms of promoting a sense of Jewish roots through time, and braiding that with scientific understanding, and also promoting that sense of identity as one family, that has spread out and experienced twists and turns over the years. A lot of people, maybe in particular more secular people, but a lot of people don't actually believe literally that these different groups of Jews are related to each other. But we are literally related, that can be determined through, the most objective of tools. The nature of that relationship, is still something we can unpack. We're interested in the details, and I look forward to sharing more about the big picture, but also the textures and the details that help fill out
Fascinating.
the big picture.
Well, thank you so much. We're very much looking forward, and we look forward to welcoming you on Shabbos.
Oh, pleasure. I can't wait to meet everyone and answer questions. Please challenge me, debate me. Our ideas get better when we, you know, uh, have a chance to bring them out into the world and get feedback.
Perfect. Well, I think you'll have a very participatory audience, so should be
Wonderful.
good. All right. Thank you, Josh.
Take care.